Welcome to MI Magazine presents Soul, a weekly entertainment show on fashion, arts and culture, relationships, mental health, and food. Our weekly guest hosts are Christy Grace Chambers, Carla Hill, Dr. Delvina Thomas, and Chef Irene. Now introducing our host, Miss Nikki Jellin.
Hello, everybody, and happy Hump Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I am your host, Nikki Jellin, or Nikki Says YOLO. And I want to start the show by saying last week we took the show on the road. We found a really cute hidden gem in Coconut Creek called Swirl Wine Bistro. And I'm telling you, it's a really cute restaurant tucked in the heart of Broward County, and it's also Black owned. So the owners, they're Mike and Judith, and it's a global cuisine of different entrees. They have like dishes like ravioli oxtail. I had the Chilean sea bass, and I ended my night with their creme brulee, and it was just so magnificent. So if you're in Broward County, stop by, support. It's Black owned, and the food is just so tasty. I have a question for y'all. So do y'all watch The Bachelors? So apparently he kisses with his eyes open. Do y'all kiss with y'all eyes open? Is there a meaning behind kissing with your eyes open? Leave your comments. Let us know. It's a really good question. Because do I kiss with my eyes open? I don't think I do. I have to pay attention next time. So join the African American Black Alzheimer's Disease Initiative at the John P. Hussman Institute for Human Genomics, University of Miami-Dade School of Medicine. If you are someone that is experiencing loss of memory or memory problems, or if you know someone who has those problems, please contact their research team at 877-686-6444. Again, that is 877-686-6444. So we have a really, really special guest tonight. She is a celebrity designer and boutique clothing owner. Her designs have been featured during the 2020 Super Bowl weekend, the NBA All-Star Weekend, the BET Awards, and our very own Jazz in the Gardens. So stay tuned. You don't want to miss it. So I'm going to pass this over now to my first co-host. She is a stylist and personal shopper. You can also catch her on NBC 6's Six in the Mix. So Christy Grace Chambers, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. What an interesting topic. I can't wait to see people's responses about the eyes opened or closed. And I'm so happy that Shannon is here. I love her boutique and was fortunate enough to use some of her clothes in the MIA magazine calendar. But listen, you might tell from my outfit, we're talking about bras today. Bras, lingerie. So let's get started talking about some of the Black-owned lingerie brands. So we're going to start with one you probably already know, Savage by Fenty, right? That's Rihanna's brand. So we won't spend so much time on that, but a lot of cute items she has. And next, there's a brand called Liberté. I love this brand. I mean, I haven't personally worn it, but just from the photos and the research, it was actually named the Cosmopolitan's magazine's top bra of 2020, and it's Black owned. So next, we're talking about Susie Black New York Ladies. She has a resort collection, and then her lingerie, super sexy. Check it out. And number 4, we are talking about Love Vera. Now, what I like, I just am drawn to this photo. Look at all the shades, and everyone needs a nude bra. Listen, if you don't have a nude bra in your collection, please go out, get one. So when you wear these lighter colors, you know, you're not seeing, it's like it's your skin. So everyone should have a nude bra. And another company that sells nude is Nubian Skin. And there you have it, men. They have the boxer shorts in nude colors as well. So Nubian Skin, I will say I have ordered from them before, and they are based in the UK. So I would just recommend ordering a size up because, sometimes those UK sizes are a little small. They're definitely not the USA sizes. And then finally, I'm ending with Cherry Blossoms Intimates. And I feel that this is like for real women. They have over 200 sizes, Nikki G. 200. So they go from cup sizes from A to O and from bandwidths from 28 to 56. And they are known for working with women with cancer and putting the prosthetic bras. So that is what I wanted to tell everyone tonight. You can shop black with your bra selections.
I think the men's, the designer that designs for men as well, that's so awesome because I always see for women, but not for men. So do you think you're really conscious about wearing like nude type undergarments?
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
So do you think that men are pretty conscious about wearing nude like type garments as women are?
I don't think they are, but they should be. Think about it. It's spring now. So men are wearing these off-white linen pants or off-white jeans. You don't want to have your black or gray boxers under that. So why not get nude? I think it's important for every individual out there.
Awesome. Well, Christy, thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.
See you later.
And now on to my next co-host. She is our mental health advocate and also the host of the Brain Love podcast. So Dr. Delvina, happy Hump Wednesday. How's it going?
Hey. Are you ready to take the couch, Nikki?
I'm always ready.
All right, good deal. So that was a great piece by Christy talking about those Black-owned lingerie companies. And actually, the Cherry Blossom Intimates, I believe they're based out of Maryland. So, Maryland is my home state. That's where I'm from. And she's right. Every lady should have some nude bras. I have at least 5 or so or something like that. So I'm going to go on those sites and order some stuff. Last week we were talking about women and their sexual health. We spoke about some of the things that can damper a woman's sexual appetite, and people wanted more. I got DMs and they said I didn't give enough information. And I'm like, okay, well, number one, guys, please watch the live that I did on my Facebook page on Therapy Thursday last week with Dr. Shruzanne Gray. Dr. Shruzanne Gray is an obstetrician gynecologist. She's board certified. There's so many things that go into low libido for women. Men, their most common sexual complaint is erectile dysfunction, and that can occur as they get older, as men their testosterone is going down, it's decreasing. They also may be on medications that are causing them to have difficulty with getting blood flow to the penis, or they may have conditions that are interrupting the process of blood flow getting to the penis, like elevated blood sugar, elevated blood pressure, things like that. And it's similar for women as well. Women, if you're taking medications like high blood pressure pills, some oral contraceptives, certain types of things can reduce sexual appetite or libido. Not necessarily. Obviously, we're not going to have an issue with erectile dysfunction because we don't have an organ hanging outside of our body like a man does. So instead for us, it's the complicating factors of mental and physical components that come together and compound our sexual appetite, our sexual desires, and things like that. So when you're in your 20s, you can have reduced sexual appetite because of testosterone being low. And what can reduce your testosterone in your 20s? Oral contraception, birth control pills. When you get into your 30s, things happen like jobs and having children, being busy in life, and stress. So stress can interrupt the process. To combat that, you have to remember, eat healthy, drink plenty of water, get exercise, get out and get fresh air, do walks, get sun. All of those things help with reducing the stress. And don't be ashamed about talking with a psychotherapist. Speak with someone, a mental health professional, to process your concerns, your issues, so they can help you manage and get through those things. And be sure that you pair up with the perfect partner, the partner that complements you the best. That is another way to combat low sexual desires. You have someone you really care about and you want to give your body to, you want to spend your time with, you want to show them how much you care about them by being intimate. But if you're with an a-hole or a jerk or someone who's selfish or doesn't show you that they care, that can be a difficult feat. So you have to be able, and I really didn't even list everything that goes into sexual desire and the things that can reduce the appetite and the libido, but those are some of the main things. So just remember, go see your gynecologist. If you have any concerns, consider seeing a mental health professional as well. Did that make sense, Nikki?
It really did. Thank you very much for that advice, and we'll see you next week.
All right, say brain love.
Brain love. And now on to my next co-host. She's a host on PBS television and also our arts and culture connoisseur. So Miss Carla Hill, are you here?
Can you hear me?
Yes, there you go.
Fantastic. Thank you. Welcome to the 21st century. We can do things on computers and phones. And I want to follow up with some of the things that we're talking about today. This mix of fashion, of high and low, and our bodies changing. So I'm going to talk about skin. We sometimes don't think about having seasons in South Florida, but we do. And I don't know about you, Nikki, but in these months, these what we call our winter months, I definitely feel a change in my skin. And I've been reading a lot and I'm getting older. I had a kind of a biggish birthday. And I'm learning about how to preserve skin. So the first thing that I've learned about is that we have to be gentle. I thought when I was younger, it was all about buying the most expensive and the most recognized name, but sometimes it's just about going into the grocery store. So I wanted to introduce this. I've been noticing a little sensitivity. So I found this at Walgreens, and it is the Botanics nature-inspired Simply Calm, and it has a bit of CBD in it. And I know that Dr. D has talked about CBD and the miracle plant. And I will tell you that this has made a really big difference in my skin. And as Black folks, we have to understand that this melanin we have is beautiful and miraculous, but we still have to take care of our skin. So do all the things that you can, particularly as we're getting older, or as I'm getting older, to put moisture in your skin. So after I cleanse, I go through and I use this rose-infused witch hazel that helps to retain moisture and helps to tone the skin. Very important. After I do that, now I do believe in serums and potions and all those things, but the thing that I believe the most in is sunscreen. And this is a Black-owned company. I've talked about them before. Sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen for Black folk. Not just to keep us tight and looking right, but also to help us keep off the effects of skin cancer or the potential for skin cancer. So Black Girl Sunscreen is one that I really enjoy. The owner really puts a lot of moisture attracting ingredients in this. There's shea butter, among other things. And of course, it protects us from the sun. Now, another thing also about makeup is that it's not necessarily about these like sculpted looks that we see on these Instagram models, right? It really is about making us look dewy and youthful. So here's another Black-owned makeup business. She's probably the first billionaire makeup artist, and that is Pat Mcgrath. Pat Mcgrath has done the makeup for anyone that you can name that's a celebrity. She has done their makeup, and she's also created her own empire. And this is one of my favorite products from her. On one end, it's a bronzer. And then on the other end, it's a balm. Balm makes me feel nice and moisturized and beautiful. So you would touch up, get your little glow on with the bronzer. And then over that, you would make this dewy glow with the balm. Do you see that?
I see that.
Ow!
Yeah, girl, you glowing.
It is all about moisture in the skin, protecting our skin, and also giving us that lift, that dewiness, not that crazy sculptured look. We want to look like ourselves, our most beautiful selves. So thank you for that. Happy to send any information anyone is interested in on that. I'll do more of these segments.
So would you recommend to put on the sunscreen before putting on like the actual foundation or the concealer or anything? Like, how do you put on your makeup? Is the sunscreen first and then you put on everything after?
Yes, sunscreen is so I actually do double moisturizer. I'll put on a moisturizer first, a regular moisturizer without sunscreen, and then I layer sunscreen over that, and then I'll start to put the makeup on.
Awesome. Well, your skin is flawless. So
thank you.
All right, so we'll see you next week. And now to my next co-host. He's actually a host on American Public Television. He is a private chef. Chef Irie, happy Hump Wednesday. What's going on tonight?
What's going on, Nikki? Girl, it's 5 o'clock somewhere, so guess what? I'm having a cocktail. Thank you, darling. A little bourbon and pineapple. Yes, thank you very much. And how are you today?
I'm good. Actually, pretty good. Great seeing you guys tonight.
Awesome. So, what are we talking about today? Did you go to high school, college, all of that? Did you? Yeah? Did you?
I did. Yeah, I did.
So you were taught by an instructor, yeah?
Yes, I was.
So what we're highlighting today are Black female chef culinary instructors. And I have to tell you, within our business, our industry, yes, there are quite a lot of us, Black male chefs, Black female chefs, but oftentimes we don't see a lot of us in places where it really matters, places of management, places of leadership, for the most part, unless we're, doing our own thing. And a lot of times we don't see a lot of us in places of instruction. So I'm here, to highlight some of our female chefs. And one of the first people, we go in local. Thank God, we go in local. So for a couple of these, and the first person up is Anastasia Carter. Yes, she is a culinary instructor in the Broward Public Schools. She started off, doing baking and pastry, and I think that's the thing that she does most in her culinary instructions. But of course, when you're in the Broward system, sometimes they call upon you to do a lot of different things. But yes, baking and pastry, and she hails from the Bahamas. So, them baking and pastry, she gonna hook you up with some guava duffy and she gonna make it happen. But the young kids, we need to grab them fast and we need to grab them early, and that's Miss Anastasia Carter. Our next chef, Chef Shireen Stubbs. A lot of these, chefs, a lot of us, we start our careers in different fields, different capacities. Private chefing, where Chef Rain is, traveling chef, where we're doing, events and we're catering to, short-term and long-term stints for clients. Well, not only is she doing that, but she also instructs for the Miami Job Corps. And of course, we all know how important it is for young people to start off on the right track, in the right career, the things that they're looking towards. And of course, she's given some of her time and stuff to instruct in the Miami Job Corps. So that's Miss Shireen Stubbs. All right, next step, we going out of South Florida. We over there in Memphis, girl. We over there in Memphis. Chef Sandra Jones, yes, culinary instructor in the Shelby County School District. And one of the cool things about all these chefs, they started early, like 4, 5, 6 years old in the kitchen. Like, yeah, mama, I'm going to help you cook. I'm going to help you do this. That's how Chef Cassandra started, and she, went up. She would even, when she started doing cooking classes earlier, and she would get the chef's recipe. She would be changing the recipes and then bringing them, back to school and giving them back to the teachers. I'm like, what? Yeah. So Chef Cassandra Jones out there, she's a graduate of Johnston Wales. Yeah, alma mater, baby. All right. Chef Addie Farrington. What can I say about Chef Addie Farrington? She is a rock star there in the Bahamas, and I met Chef Addie several years ago when I went to the Bahamas to participate in Black Chef event there for us in the industry, and she is just amazing because her heart is not just about just every people, but the kids that she instructs. She really, 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 really takes them under her wings and making sure that they understand what it means to embrace all this culinary instruction. So Chef Addie out there in the Bahamas, big ups. So my last person that I'm going to talk about real quickly is Chef Rashara Sanders. Why did I leave her for the last? She is a culinary instructor at CIA, Culinary Institute of America. Why is her feature prominent? Because she is the first Black female culinary instructor at the CIA in its 46 or 49 year of existence.
Wow.
Yes, she's the first. She's 30 years old, and she just recently, got appointed to the position as culinary instructor. And just like everybody else, she has a story. She joined the military at 17, and she went to culinary school. She's also a graduate of the CIA. So she came back and she's doing what she wants to do and needs to do, which is embracing the young people now who are going to be our future. And I remember heard a comment a few years ago where someone said, anybody that becomes a culinary instructor, they fail at being a chef in a restaurant. But I really wanted to reach out to that person if I could. I'm like, you are here because of a culinary instructor. Whether you're a black, brown, purple, white, or green, you are here because of a culinary instructor. I'm here because of a culinary instructor. So big ups to all the culinary instructors. Big up to all the people in my industry. And once again, Women's Month. Thank you again, Nikki.
Yes, thank you for
Monday morning, 9:30 on the Ricky Smiley Morning Show, and buy the book, taste it, Amazon. Yes.
Monday.
Sip, sip, sip.
And now on to our featured guest. So she has been in the business for over 13 years. Her brand has been featured on WSBN 7's Deco Drive. She's been featured on NBC 6's Six in the Mix, just to name a few. She is celebrity designer Shannon Saint Clair. Thank you so much for being our guest tonight. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you for having me on.
No problem. So let's get right into it. So tell us a little about yourself.
I grew up in a small town in Virginia, and I moved to South Florida back in 2004. And I have always had a passion. As a childhood dream, I wanted to be a fashion designer and jewelry designer.
So, okay, so what or whom inspired that talent or that gift?
My mother. I owe it all to my mother. She was a teacher, and I saw her on the side in the summer sewing clothes, and she would sew clothes for people in the neighborhood, and they paid for them. So that was kind of like her side business, her side passion. She always dreamed of owning a boutique. And she taught me to sew when I was age 5. So I would make dolls and toys, and then we'd go to local craft shows. And she started sewing like these stuffed animal elephants and then bunnies. And then I started selling jewelry I would make. So I really owe it all to her.
Okay, was it like a needle and thread, or was it like a sewing machine or a merger?
Yes.
Like
it would start with the needle and thread. I would sit there on the floor and watch her sew and help her pin the patterns. And she'd cut everything out, and she showed me how to use a sewing machine. Then she bought me, like when I was 6, like a little kid sewing machine. It had a really thick needle so you couldn't cut yourself. And by the time I was think 12, they bought me like a used old sewing machine that I just would stay in my room for hours sewing, making stuff like vests and skirts. And that was just my passion.
No, that's awesome. So, okay, so at what point did you know you wanted to turn this gift and hobby like into a profession?
When I was a kid, people used to ask me what you want to be when you grow up, and I would say I want to be a fashion designer. And I said, but I want to go to college. And people are like, well, you don't need to go to college to be a designer. And I'm like, that's bad advice to give a child. And so my parents are both teachers. I went to go to Art Institute. And my parents were like, we can't afford to send you to Art Institute. And we don't want you to be a struggling artist. So they sent me to the University of Virginia. And I thank them for it, because if it wasn't for their direction, I wouldn't be here today where I'm at. So, I went there, I majored in history, thought I'd become a history teacher like my dad. I took art classes. And then my path changed to move to St. Louis, and I was working for as a marketing coordinator, at a commercial real estate firm. And then I started my business from there.
Yeah, because your passion, it's like it's being creative with designing and everything. And outside of garments, you design jewelry as well.
Yes. So I started with clothing back in 2002. My husband used to play for the St. Louis Rams, and I started a company called Jersey Couture, and I cut up a pair of his shorts and turned it into a jersey and wore it to the game. And I was just wearing, because back then they didn't have women's paraphernalia by the NFL. And I was wearing it, and a lot of people kept stopping me, asking me, where'd you get that? And I want to buy one. And I told them I designed it. So I was like, wow, I guess I need to start my first company. It was my life dream. So I did that on the side, and I started making jerseys. And then the NFL started coming out with paraphernalia. And so then I started embellishing those jerseys and jackets, adding the team numbers, and instead of sewing the jerseys from scratch, then I started adding the team numbers and embellishing the sleeves with different stitching, cutting it out, making it one shoulder, altering the clothing. And so then in 2008, I decided to go back to my childhood passion of jewelry making. And I started using semi-precious stones and making beaded jewelry, and it became a hit because my husband's teammates started buying the jewelry because they liked what he wore. And then it just, took off from there.
So it's been 13 years in the business. And so being a woman of color, what kind of obstacles or challenges have you had to face?
There have been a ton of challenges. Just to start off, you want to get your first customers, and a lot of people, I would tell, when you want to be an entrepreneur, don't overlook your first customers as people, your friends, your family. Don't overlook the power of social media. Of course, there was no social media back then. But for me, it was just, designing stuff. And then when you have your customers, my obstacles, for me, have always been racism. Because even in Miami, I saw it as a melting pot at first. But then I started going to trade shows, and I'm that jewelry designer, and they're looking like, who is Shannon Saint Clair? And then you've got booths beside you on either side, and they're not Black. Literally, you saw store after store walk past you and go to the next person who was selling something just like yours. And it was frustrating. It was very blatant, because I'm like, I've got the most professional table. I've got all the bells and whistles. I've got celebrities who bought my items. I've got all this, and they're still passing me up, literally because of the color of my skin. But I didn't let that stop me. So you still have customers. So I stopped doing the trade shows, because between Palm Beach and Miami, I talked to other Black designers there, and they experienced the same thing. So, it's a shame. That's definitely an obstacle, And so, but the way I got around that, I would contact boutiques and stores back then, and they took in my jewelry, like at the JW Marriott's in Miami, in Brickell, and I had my stuff in different stores in DC and Maryland and California. I contacted boutiques all over the country. Then my jewelry is also sold in a nightclub in South Beach, and that was a huge hit. So here I'm in a nightclub, it used to be called Club Play, and celebrities wore my jewelry, and the club owner would call me and tell me, like, you're not gonna believe who wore your jewelry last night. I'm like, who? And he's like, Chris Brown. I'm like, well, it's like my favorite artist of all time. And he's like performing his Deuces song with like these 4 bracelets. And so, that was just another takeoff. So it's like I always say, in your business, you have to pivot. So, if I'm faced with racism and I'm on a level playing field with other designers, because I don't choose to hide my face, then, I'll target my own people, and they appreciate it. They see your designs as beautiful. So that's one of the obstacles. Then the other obstacle is, continuing keeping your customers. So, that's when you have the social media. And then on top of that, my other big obstacle was, of course, this pandemic of 2020, I mean, that just literally just shut everything down. I was so excited because in February 2020, I did a fashion show for the Super Bowl, for a Super Bowl event where there were players who wore my clothes. I had female models wearing my clothes. We did this huge event. It was a gala and a fashion show. And then, like a few weeks later, I did Legacy Magazine's fashion show and awards reception. They honored me as one of the most, prominent female Black business owners of 2019. And I was very excited of that. 2020, and then in June, in March, I was supposed to be for the Jazz in the Gardens. I was going to be another women's conference vendor. Then I was flying to Philly in July because I was going to be a vendor for the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority Boulay. And then a week later, I was supposed to go to San Diego for the NFL conference they have for players, and they invited me to do a fashion show. So I was so excited. I had all these events booked, and then suddenly, we go in quarantine. Everything shuts down. So now everything's canceled. But now, I'm trying to keep my online sales. But, just like all other store owners, everything just shuts down. So how did I pivot? I started thinking, like, I've always wanted to own a boutique. In Florida, rent is very high, and also finding a location that's available was very hard. There was always a wait list for places I was looking at side to side to look. In August of last year, and I found a location. So I opened my boutique, and a lot of people ask me, like, why would you open a boutique during a pandemic? And I'm like, why not? People spent so much time at home, and you've got some type of God-given talent and some passion you want to pursue. Now's the time to pursue it, or take your company or whatever you want to the next level. So people think that's a risk and that's not smart. And I'm like, it's a brilliant idea, because a lot of people have done that. That's how you pivot, because online sales, if they're not doing it, everybody's stuck at home. Then now I have a boutique where people get to come to me. They can make a private appointment if they don't want to be around any other customers, or they can come at the certain hours. The clothes are sanitized between customers. They get a nice, safe, private shopping environment. So that's how I pivoted, and so that's how I overcame the obstacles so far.
Wow. No. So you've seen the different changes throughout, and you've always had to kind of just adapt and acclimate to the different changes.
Yes.
So how would you describe the Shannon Saint Clair brand?
The Shannon Saint Clair brand is a unique brand that's going to make you look different. You're going to feel sexy. You're going to look classy. You're going to stand out in the crowd. That's like my personality as a whole. I don't want to dress like everybody else, but I'm always going to be in style, on trend, but it's not going to look, your clothes aren't going to look cheap. They're going to look elegant. You're going to be different, but then you're going to show off your curves, and, because I wear a lot of plus size clothing, as well as sometimes, larges and extra larges, depending on the fit, off a variety of clothing. So I fit all body shapes. A lot of women go like, oh, I have hips, or, my booty's too big, or, oh, I don't have a flat stomach. I don't think I can fit anything. Like, oh, yes, I have something for you. Trust me, and I understand plus size fashion, because, a lot of times designers, they make these things that go around the neck for women, and they think you should hide everything and it should puff out at the chest. I'm like, no, I have the same clothes that you can wear in size small. They go to a 3X, and they have stretch, and they show off your curves for any size. And so that's what I love to do with my clothing. And of course, I have jewelry too, and I custom design jewelry. I just featured some new jewelry as well. So that's what I would say my brand is. It's tailored for like women, of course, all races, but for women who are anywhere from teenagers, you want a cool tracksuit or sexy bodycon dress, all the way to if you're in your 60s and you want something a little different and you want like a cute ruffled blouse or something loose fitting or something flowy, different mature two-piece set. I have all of it.
Well, so we have a few slides to show our viewers. So we're going to get it up right now. All right. So here we go. Okay, so we can can you just kind of explain what we're looking at right now as far as a setup, the different wardrobe and styles and everything?
Sure. So in my boutique, I offer, regular size and plus size. You see there I have track suits, I have vegan leather blouses, denim blouses, ruffle blouses. I even have formal dresses, mesh dresses, sequin dresses, sundresses, bodycon, maxi dresses, different types of shirts, coats, jackets. And then, of course, I like with my denim coats, I have those where you can buy them plain or I can embellish them, part of my royalty collection that I launched last year for my Super Bowl fashion show. And I can embellish them with shoulder details and different designs on them and really just customize them. So that's like one of the fishnet dresses that's new. It comes in nude and black. And then that's a mesh dress, the geometric dress on the left. And like those pearl dusters come in yellow, the hot color for spring, green, blue, and pink. And so the lady on the left, Serena, the model, she's wearing the vegan leather puff sleeve blouse and she's wearing a tracksuit on the right. And this is part of my new jewelry, the frame collection with the picture frames of my children. So just in time for Mother's Day, you can pick a necklace, even different stones, different than that's pictured. I can design it. You send me the picture, like whether it's for your mother or whoever it is, and I'll print out the picture and frame it in the picture frame, and it's a unique necklace. And the necklace on the right, it's called the Rumble with the Bee necklace. So it features a bee and a crown that can be unisex. So I do a variety of designs, but I aim to be different.
Awesome. So we can shop online on your website or go to your social media. And it's also a brick and mortar as well. And it's in Davie as well, right?
Yes, it's in Davie, Florida.
Okay. And for the face-to-face, there's appointment only, or can
It's
we just
both.
walk in?
I have open hours, like on Thursdays and Fridays, 3 to 5, Saturday, 2 to 4, or you can make an appointment. So this
Okay.
week I'm closed for vacation until next Friday. Actually, I'm closed for vacation until about March 26th. And so
Oh,
you
okay.
can you can still order, online, and orders are shipped. You can make an appointment. You can either do it online on my website, shannonsaintclair.com, or you can call or text 954-812-8088.
All right. So what would you tell your younger self, and how old would you be?
I would tell my younger self at age 18, when you go to college, pursue your dream if it's something dealing with art or fashion design at that age, because a lot of kids right now have so many talents that people are teaching them to wait on. But you see, there are too many children, especially even with YouTube and social media, they're becoming, they're funding their own college from their side hustle. So you can turn your hobby into a profession and use all the opportunities that you're given. Because like before I graduated from college, I was hired by Philip Morris, cigarette company. I was making a lot of money and I hated it. But from whatever you're taught, with computer skills, or when I was a marketing coordinator in St. Louis, I learned how to design websites and I learned how to use Photoshop and Illustrator. So I used all that to create my first business cards, to create my own website. I have a passion for photography, so I do my own photo shoots. I do my website design. I edit my photos. With my marketing, I learned, to to do my own marketing. So, I used to reach out. That's how I got into NBC Sits, and I got into
Right.
the Miami Herald and Sun Sentinel, because when a lot of people think you have to pay a lot of people to do, and I have to overcome that stereotype, because people see you like, oh, your husband playing the league, so you're just paying people to do stuff for you. And I'm like, no, he retired 10 years ago. We've been together for 25 years, married 19 years a few days ago. And this is all my blood, sweat, and tears. So, like, literally, I do like 10 jobs all the time,
The
So
jack of all trades.
I take pride in it. So I would tell, my younger self, and I would tell other people out there, like, it's never too soon to pursue your dream. You never know how profitable it can be. And always take advantage of all opportunities, because you never know where it's going to change your career.
Exactly. Well, Shannon, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of your achievements, and just being a woman of color, and just being featured on all these platforms and with these celebrities. Would you consider yourself like a socialite? Because I went on your page and I saw Maya and Brandy and Kevin Hart. So are you a socialite as well?
No, I would definitely not say I'm a socialite. Even though, my company is self-titled, that was at a recommendation of a marketing guru I first spoke to, because, believe it or not, I'm actually partially introvert. I'm sociable, but I didn't want to be the face. I first started my company, I didn't want to be seen. And this marketing guru is like, no, it's a lot of competition. You have to show you, or people need to see your face, and your company name should be your name. And I'm like, I don't want to be known or seen in a certain way. And he's like, no, you have to put yourself out there. And so I just feel like, it's a blessing that God's put me in a position to be at certain, events, have met different people, and I understand, the marketing behind it of, being branded. And, I know when you're branded and you show celebrities, other people want to shop. It's just the type of society we live in. But I don't consider myself any part of I'm a socialite. I just feel like I've been blessed to be in certain, positions. I have different friendships and relationships that have propelled me in the position that I'm at today, and I'm thankful for it.
Well, Shannon, thank you so much. And yeah, so we'll catch you on Instagram. We'll see you in your boutique. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you for having me.
And this show is brought to you by the Florida Lottery and the AARP. Thank you so much for being our guest, and we'll see you next week. Good night.